The city glittered beneath the evening skyline, glass towers reflecting golden light and secrets alike. In the top floor of the Delacroix Hotel, laughter echoed through the private suite of Manhattan's most exclusive club. Champagne fizzed, designer dresses shimmered, and among them stood Adriana Voss, the woman everyone either envied or feared. She was young, stunning, and ruthless, the billionaire CEO of Voss International. Her smile could melt hearts or freeze souls, depending on who stood before her. Adriana leaned against the marble bar, swirling the glass in her hand as her friends teased and provoked one another. The air smelled of money and mischief. "You think love can't be bought," her best friend and business rival, Camille, taunted. "Then prove it. Take someone ordinary, someone with nothing to offer but a good heart, and make her fall for you." Adriana's lips curled into a dangerous smile. "And if I do? Then you win the bet, and the Voss Foundation deal I've been eyeing." Camille's tone was smug. "But if she finds out it was all a game, you lose everything. Business, reputation, maybe even your heart." Adriana laughed softly. "My heart? Please. I don't gamble with things I don't have." 2 weeks later, in a small flower shop tucked between gray city streets, Elena Rivera was sweeping petals from the floor. She was nothing like Adriana's world, humble, kind, with eyes that still carried softness despite life's cruelty. Her shop wasn't glamorous, but it was hers, and every bloom seemed to reflect her quiet strength. That's when Adriana walked in. Designer heels clicked against the wooden floor. The billionaire's aura filled the tiny space like a storm dressed in silk. Elena looked up, her breath catching at the sight. "Can I help you?" she asked, her voice gentle yet steady. Adriana's gaze lingered longer than necessary. "I need flowers. Something beautiful. For someone special?" Elena smiled. Adriana tilted her head, amused. "Not yet. But maybe soon." Over the next days, Adriana kept coming back, each time with a new excuse. A meeting, a gala, a client dinner. But her eyes always lingered on Elena, not the flowers. She watched the way Elena's hands moved gently through petals, the way her laughter lit up the dim shop, and for the first time in years, Adriana felt something she couldn't control. When Elena finally asked, "Why do you really come here, Ms. Voss?" Adriana didn't have an answer. Or maybe she had too many. Because this was supposed to be a game. A bet. But suddenly, the rules didn't feel so clear anymore. Adriana Voss wasn't used to uncertainty. In her world, every deal had a price, every person a purpose. Yet Elena Rivera had become something that didn't fit in any category. The bet was supposed to be simple: get her to fall in love, reveal the truth, and walk away victorious. But each time Adriana entered that little flower shop, she felt her perfectly built armor crack just a little more. One rainy afternoon, Adriana appeared again, this time without her usual confidence. Her hair was slightly damp, her trench coat unbuttoned, revealing the faintest glimpse of vulnerability. Elena was arranging lilies when she looked up and smiled softly. "You'll catch a cold walking around like that." Adriana chuckled, brushing a raindrop from her cheek. "You sound like my assistant." "Maybe your assistant cares about you," Elena said, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. "Or maybe she just wants you to buy more flowers." The joke broke the tension, and they both laughed, an easy, genuine laugh that surprised Adriana more than she wanted to admit. "I didn't come for flowers today," Adriana said, after a long pause. "I came to see you." Elena blinked, startled by the directness. "Me?" "Yes, you." Adriana's voice dropped lower, steady but softer than usual. "You make this place feel different. Calmer. Real." Elena's heart skipped. She didn't know why someone like Adriana Voss, a woman whose face was on magazine covers, would keep visiting a small flower shop like hers. Yet the way Adriana looked at her made her forget reason, just for a moment. They talked for an hour that day. About everything and nothing: Elena's late nights keeping her business afloat, Adriana's supposed love for art, though she confessed she hadn't painted in years. time slipped quietly between their words. By the time Adriana left, the shop was dark except for the soft glow of the streetlight outside. That night, Elena couldn't sleep. She kept replaying Adriana's laughter, the warmth in her eyes that didn't match her cold reputation. There was something magnetic about her, dangerous, but impossible to resist. Meanwhile, Adriana sat in her penthouse, staring out at the skyline she once conquered. Her phone buzzed, Camille's message. "Don't forget the bet. You're halfway there." Adriana typed and deleted several replies before tossing the phone aside. For the first time in her life, she didn't want to win. The next morning, a bouquet arrived at Elena's shop, white orchids tied with a black silk ribbon. No name, but she knew who they were from. Tucked inside was a note in Adriana's elegant handwriting. "For the girl who makes flowers jealous." Elena smiled, cheeks warm. She whispered to herself, "What are you doing to me, Adriana Voss?" And somewhere across the city, Adriana asked herself the very same thing. Days turned into weeks, and the rhythm of Adriana's life began to change. Board meetings, business calls, and social events started to feel dull compared to the quiet joy of walking into Elena's flower shop. It had become her secret escape, a place where she could breathe without pretending to be untouchable. Elena, too, felt the difference. She had never met someone who made her so nervous and calm at the same time. Adriana's presence filled the room effortlessly, her voice, her scent, her laughter, everything about her was intoxicating. And yet, beneath all that confidence, Elena sensed something fragile, something almost lonely. One afternoon, Adriana appeared carrying 2 cups of coffee. "Thought I'd return the favor for all the warmth you give me here," she said, handing one to Elena. Elena smiled, surprised. "You brought coffee? From the woman who probably has an assistant do everything?" Adriana raised a brow playfully. "You'd be shocked what I can do when I want to impress someone." Their eyes met. The air between them thickened with something neither wanted to name. Adriana looked away first, clearing her throat. "You mentioned your mom loved tulips," she said softly. "Was she a florist too?" Elena's expression softened. "Yes. She taught me everything before she passed away. This shop was her dream, and mine." There was a silence, not awkward, but intimate. Adriana found herself genuinely listening, not calculating what to say next. The walls she'd built for years began to crumble without her noticing. A few days later, Adriana invited Elena to dinner. It wasn't at a 5-star restaurant or a lavish hotel, it was at a quiet rooftop garden Adriana owned but never visited. Candles flickered in the warm evening breeze, surrounded by pots of flowers that reminded Elena of home. "This is beautiful," Elena whispered. "You did all this?" Adriana smiled faintly. "With help. But, yes, I wanted tonight to be special." For hours, they talked about dreams, fears, and the kind of love that feels impossible. Adriana confessed that her wealth often built walls between her and the world. People saw her power, never her heart. Elena listened, her gaze gentle and unafraid. At one point, Adriana's hand brushed against Elena's across the table. Neither moved away. The spark was electric, tender yet undeniable. "I don't usually let people close," Adriana murmured. "But you make it hard to stay distant." Elena's lips curved into a soft smile. "Maybe you don't need to." That night, when Adriana dropped Elena home, she didn't want to leave. The bet, the game, all of it blurred into something unrecognizable. As she watched Elena walk away, Adriana's chest ached with a feeling she hadn't known before. And though she didn't admit it yet, she was already falling. The rooftop dinner changed everything. What had started as curiosity had grown into something neither woman could easily explain. Adriana found herself canceling business meetings, showing up at the flower shop just to see Elena's smile, and inventing reasons to stay longer each time. It was reckless, uncharacteristic, and yet she couldn't stop. Elena, on the other hand, tried to keep her feelings grounded. She had told herself that Adriana was just a friend, a client, someone too far from her world. But every glance, every accidental touch, every soft word from Adriana made her heart betray reason. She began to wait for her visits, dressing a little nicer, laughing a little brighter. Adriana had become the light she didn't realize she'd been missing. One late evening, Adriana stopped by as Elena was closing the shop. "I didn't know you worked this late," she said, leaning against the doorway. Elena smiled wearily. "Flowers don't arrange themselves. Someone has to make them pretty." Adriana stepped closer, her gaze soft. "They already are. Especially when you're the one holding them." Elena blushed, her heart thudding. "You're impossible, you know that?" "Maybe," Adriana whispered, brushing a petal from Elena's hair. "But you make me want to be better." There was something in Adriana's eyes that night, raw and sincere. She wasn't the billionaire CEO the world feared, she was just a woman standing in front of someone who made her feel human again. When she finally said goodnight, Elena found herself watching Adriana's car disappear into the distance, realizing she was already too far gone. But in Adriana's world, love wasn't simple. The whispers had begun, rumors in the boardroom, Camille's mocking texts, subtle reminders of the bet she was supposed to win. "You're getting too soft," Camille had warned. "Remember what's at stake." Adriana tried to ignore it. But guilt started eating away at her. Every time Elena laughed or looked at her with those trusting eyes, she felt the weight of her own deception. The bet had seemed harmless once, a game among bored elites. Now it felt cruel. The next weekend, Adriana invited Elena to a charity gala. It was Elena's first time stepping into Adriana's world of luxury and attention. Cameras flashed as they walked in together, Elena in a simple navy dress that Adriana couldn't stop staring at. The contrast between them was striking, billionaire and florist, ice and warmth, yet somehow, they fit perfectly. Throughout the evening, Adriana stayed by Elena's side, shielding her from the judgmental eyes of the wealthy guests. When Elena nervously whispered, "I don't belong here," Adriana leaned closer and murmured, "You belong with me. That's all that matters." And in that moment, Elena believed her. But across the room, Camille watched with a knowing smile, because she saw what Adriana refused to admit. The billionaire wasn't playing anymore. She was in love. And that meant only one thing, someone was about to get hurt. The gala was supposed to be perfect. Adriana had imagined the night as a declaration of her feelings, her silent way of saying Elena mattered more than the game she'd started. And for a while, it had been just that. But perfection doesn't last long in a world built on secrets. In the days following the event, Elena's small shop was suddenly filled with curious reporters and strangers whispering about her connection to Adriana Voss. She wasn't used to attention, let alone the kind that came with scandal. Headlines began to surface, the billionaire's new toy and Voss's secret romance, another power play? Elena tried to ignore it, but the words stung. When Adriana came by that evening, Elena's smile was forced. "You didn't tell me people would talk." Adriana frowned, guilt flashing in her eyes. "I didn't think it would spread this fast. I can handle the media. I'll fix it." "That's not the point," Elena said quietly. "You live in a world where people are just stories. But I'm not used to being a headline." Adriana reached for her hand, but Elena pulled away. "Elena, please. I didn't mean for this to happen." Elena looked at her for a long moment, searching her face for answers. "Then tell me what you did mean." "Why me, Adriana? Why did you really walk into my shop that first day?" The question cut deep. Adriana froze, every instinct told her to lie, to protect herself, to protect them. But the truth burned on her tongue. Before she could answer, her phone buzzed. A message from Camille flashed on the screen. "Congratulations. You've officially won the bet. Now tell her before someone else does." Elena saw the notification. She didn't read the whole thing, just enough to recognize Camille's name and the word bet. Her expression changed instantly. "What's that?" Adriana's stomach dropped. "Elena, it's not what you think." Elena took a step back. "A bet? Is that what this is? Her voice trembled, but her eyes were fierce. Tell me the truth, Adriana. Adriana's throat tightened. It started as one, yes, but I swear, it stopped being that a long time ago. I love you. Elena's laugh came out broken. You love me? Were you love winning? Adriana tried to reach her again, but Elena stepped back, shaking her head. All this time, I thought you saw me for who I was. Turns out, you just needed another trophy. Elena, please, Adriana's voice cracked, desperate now. It wasn't supposed to go this way. I didn't mean to. Save it, Elena whispered, tears forming. You were right about one thing, though. Adriana looked at her, shattered. What? Elena's voice was barely audible. You don't gamble with a heart you never had. And then she walked away, leaving Adriana alone in the shop surrounded by wilting flowers and a silence that felt like punishment. The following days felt longer than years. Adriana's world, once dazzling and unshakable, collapsed into silence. Meetings blurred, contracts went unsigned, and her office, once a symbol of control, felt unbearably empty. Nothing she owned could fill the space Elena had left behind. She replayed that night over and over in her mind, the look in Elena's eyes, not of anger, but of heartbreak. It haunted her. The bet had started as entertainment, a harmless challenge among people too rich and bored to feel anything real. But Elena had changed her. Adriana hadn't just lost the bet, she'd lost the one person who'd ever made her forget she had walls. She tried calling. Dozens of times. Messages went unread. Flowers she sent to the shop were returned, unopened. The irony wasn't lost on her. The woman who once surrounded herself with luxury couldn't even give away a single bouquet to the person she loved. Camille called one evening, her tone half taunting, half concerned. I didn't think you'd actually fall for her, she said. Adriana's response was bitter. You win, Camille. You got what you wanted. It wasn't about winning, darling, Camille replied softly. It was about watching you feel something for once. Maybe that's the real punishment. Adriana hung up without replying. That night, she drove aimlessly through the rain, ending up in front of the flower shop. The lights were off, the sign flipped to closed. Still, she stepped out, rain soaking her coat, and stood there, just looking through the glass at the shadowed shelves where Elena once smiled. Inside her chest, something gave way. She wasn't the Adriana Voss the world admired anymore. She wasn't the untouchable billionaire. She was just a woman who'd ruined the only real thing she'd ever had. Meanwhile, Elena was struggling too. She wanted to hate Adriana, but hate wouldn't come. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Adriana's face, the sincerity in her voice when she said I love you. Part of her wanted to believe it, but another part screamed that love built on deceit wasn't love at all. Her best friend, Nora, tried to console her. People like Adriana don't change, she said gently. She lives in a world of deals, not feelings. Elena nodded, though her heart disagreed. Maybe you're right, she whispered. But deep down, she wondered if Adriana's pain was real. A week later, a letter arrived at the shop. No name, just elegant handwriting she recognized instantly. I don't expect forgiveness. I only want you to know that what began as a mistake became the only truth I've ever known. I love you, not as part of a game, but because you showed me what it means to feel alive. Elena read the letter twice, her tears blurring the ink. She didn't reply. But for the first time since walking away, her heart didn't feel so certain anymore. A month had passed since the night everything fell apart. Adriana's company, once her empire, began to crumble under her neglect. Investors whispered about her distraction, the board grew restless, and Camille, who once sparked the bet, watched with quiet pity as the woman who had always won began to lose everything. But Adriana didn't care. None of it mattered anymore. What was the point of wealth, power, and respect if it meant nothing to the one person she wanted to share it with? One morning, after a sleepless night, she made a decision. If there was any chance left to earn Elena's forgiveness, she would take it, no matter the cost. That afternoon, Adriana called a press conference at Boss International headquarters. Cameras flashed, journalists murmured, and everyone expected another corporate announcement. But when Adriana stepped up to the podium, the room fell silent. "I've made mistakes," she began, her voice steady but her eyes vulnerable. "I took part in something cruel, something that began as a game among people who've forgotten what feelings are worth. I entered a bet to make someone fall for me, and I did. But the joke was on me, because I fell harder than I ever thought possible." The crowd stirred, confused. Reporters exchanged glances. Adriana took a deep breath. "Her name is Elena Rivera. She runs a small flower shop downtown. She's kind, honest, and better than anyone I've ever known. And if she's watching this, I need her to know, there was nothing fake about what I feel. The bet ended long ago. But my love for you, that's the only thing that ever felt real." The room exploded with questions, but Adriana didn't stay to answer. She stepped down from the stage, ignoring the flashing cameras. She knew the statement would cost her, her reputation, her business partners, maybe even her fortune. But she didn't care. Some things were worth losing everything for. Hours later, Elena watched the broadcast from her shop, hands trembling. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. Adriana Voss, the woman who ruled the business world, had just confessed everything publicly, humbling herself in front of the entire city. Nora stared at the screen. "She actually did that? For you?" Elena couldn't speak. Tears slid silently down her cheeks. "She didn't have to," she whispered. "But she did." That evening, as the sun dipped behind the skyline, a familiar car stopped outside the flower shop. Adriana stepped out, no makeup, no bodyguards, just herself. She hesitated before entering, as if afraid she no longer had the right. Elena looked up from the counter, her eyes filled with emotions she couldn't name. "I saw the news," she said quietly. Adriana nodded. "I meant every word." For a long moment, they just stood there, the air thick with everything left unsaid. Then, softly, Elena asked, "Why risk everything for me?" Adriana's voice trembled. "Because you're the only thing I've ever wanted that money couldn't buy." The flower shop was quiet except for the faint hum of the city outside. Adriana stood in front of Elena, looking smaller than she ever had, no designer armor, no confident posture, just a woman stripped bare by her own remorse. Elena stared at her for a long moment. The part of her that still ached wanted to turn away, but another part, the one that had fallen in love with Adriana, couldn't. "You humiliated me," Elena finally said, her voice soft but trembling. "You played with my life like it was entertainment." Adriana swallowed hard. "I did. And I'll regret it for the rest of my life." She took a small step forward, eyes glistening. "But it stopped being a game the moment I realized I couldn't breathe without you. I don't expect you to forgive me, Elena. I just need you to know I became a better person because of you." Elena's hands gripped the counter as she fought the storm inside her. She could still feel the sting of betrayal, the way it hollowed her out when she learned the truth. But the sincerity in Adriana's eyes was undeniable. This wasn't the same woman who'd walked into her shop weeks ago with a smirk and a secret. This was someone who had learned what it meant to truly feel. "Do you know what hurt the most?" Elena whispered. "It wasn't that you lied. It was that I believed you were incapable of love. And then you proved me wrong too late." Adriana's voice broke. "Then let me prove it's not too late." A heavy silence followed. Rain began to fall outside, soft and rhythmic, like the heartbeat of the city holding its breath. Adriana's eyes filled with tears she didn't bother to hide. Elena moved from behind the counter and walked toward her. For a second, Adriana thought she might walk past, but instead, Elena stopped just inches away. "Love isn't something you can win or lose," Elena said gently. "It's something you build, and destroy, and sometimes rebuild again." Adriana's lips parted, her breath catching. "Does that mean?" Elena reached up, touching her face lightly, a gesture so tender it undid them both. It means I'm willing to try. But this time, no secrets. No games. Just us. Tears slipped down Adriana's cheeks, and she nodded, her voice trembling. Just us. They stood there in the soft glow of the shop lights, surrounded by flowers, symbols of growth, of fragile beauty reborn. When Elena leaned in and pressed her forehead against Adriana's, the air between them filled with warmth and forgiveness. Outside, the rain washed the city clean. Inside, two hearts quietly began again, no longer billionaire and florist, no longer betrayer and betrayed, but two women who had found something worth saving. And for the first time, Adriana Voss understood that love wasn't a bet to win. It was a promise to keep.